Good evening and most welcome to H778. We are still in Vårgårda Library and this is the easier lecture for the day. We already had two, more than enough, but I'm just going to, as we say in Swedish, passa på and put it into my own context. Some suggestion of how to improve the cognitive functions. And we have to look at the starting point, because of our educational system, it's a complete jumble. We don't have a clear training of cognitive functions, and therefore there is safe to say it's a complete jumble. It doesn't get ordered by itself, and haven't you had something specific to practice the stuff? Could you pause there? It's safe to assume there is a complete jumble or mess of our thinking. It only gets directed, correct and sequenced if we train that for extensive time. This is what they do in East Asia. They learn from the beginning to create cognitive functions and to hone them, to make the skills better and better, and making them more and more. The whole calligraphic system is a complete set of different cognitive functions to learn. Discipline, direction, explosiveness, but also calmness, and so forth and so forth. That is training on the frontal lobes, something that we neglected until last year. It's very interesting that the West were completely unaware of the cognitive functions of the frontal lobe, even having the frontal lobe removed, like it was a vestigial organ, like the appendix or something like that. Well, I have to tell my own doing. It started about 3-4 years ago. I started with 33 verses by Edward de Bono. That was my start. They contain somewhere in the vicinity of 5 to 6, even down to 2 sentences each of them, and I repeat them in my head. So that's more or less internal. I am doing it now as well. I'm at number 28. And I do it in reverse order. So next would be 27, then I go to 26. I go from 33 to 0. By doing that, I'm training, regulating and slowing also. Because of the jumble, and this is a acknowledged fact since at least 20 years, we all suffer from all these rushing thoughts and intrusive thoughts and whatever. That's because we have created a complete mess, jumble. The education system is doing that to us. So this is sort of both training and sort of calm the whole thing down a little bit. It was built in the wrong order. It's like you don't put the building blocks on top of each other when you're building a house, you just throw them together. So the first thing you need to do is to ordering the building blocks, or stopping them from moving about, that one could say too. There is very few research is done in this area because it's completely new, since last year. But some indications I've seen before. Westerners have a tendency not to pre-think, not to plan their thinking. They could plan their actions, but they seldom plan their thinking. Now should I think clearly, now I should think emotionally, now I should think in a kind way. All those different things are planned by Easterners. And we don't have that knowledge tradition. So we need to get control of them, because we are triggering everything at the same time, in no specific order and for no specific reason. There is a famous video on YouTube Senator Hutch is regulating his glasses. He's putting his glasses into his forehead, he's putting them in front of his eyes, he's adjusting his tie. This is in Congress. And he's doing something with his cuffs, and then he goes back to the glasses. The fun part is he doesn't wear any glasses. You'd never ever see that in an East Asian country. And the reason is not it's a bad thing to do that, it's because they learn steady on to control all their actions. Otherwise you're nothing but a slithering worm in the water, swimming upside down with no direction. This actually was a quote from the wife of Basil Fawlty in the famous Fawlty Towers by John Cleese. It's wonderful. She compares him to something swimming upside down in a puddle of water with no direction. This is the Western person in itself. We have technology, but we are lacking in all other areas, and that will not be enough because we are going over to the neurological or cognitive area now. We are awaiting AI, and we can't, it doesn't suffice only to do technology as such. So this is the first control. It stops the thinking a little bit. It slows it down. It's like throwing in some gravel into the machinery. It doesn't slow it completely down, but it slows it down a bit. And the slowing down is very important, because if I don't slow it down, first, the system can't read itself, and second, I will not be able to control it. So I read something in Barder just quickly before here, and it's not far from Westerners can be perceived to be people with some sort of lesion in the frontal lobe, because they don't control their different cognitive functions. So that's the first start. They all firing at the same time, and for not for the reasons that we want to. The idea is to have them fire in a preconceived way, controlled by something that's above. That's control of yourself. Nothing else is not control. The second thing I do, I invented myself. I learned myself the Yang system of Tai Chi. There are 24 movements, starting with this one. And Kalle, I think he remembers when I started to learn them. I did them physically for 1 year, and then I memorized them, and I do it in my head. And they bring order, and it's a further slowing down. And then, much later, I added from John Appleton, dorsal and ventral. That serves the double purpose of both affecting my bodily constitution, as well as bringing a direction. I call that prana, lack of another term, but there is an inherent direction in his figures. And correctly perceive the dorsal, which is the flaccid area, supposed to be flaccid, and the ventral, which is the more toned part of our body. Together they will add to a sort of a direction, because we need a bodily direction and we need a thinking direction. They need to come together. This is what we're lacking. Last 3 months I actually put in spatial orientation. This is something Westerners lack. We don't look at our environment, we don't know where we are. And here it's very important to know my orientation in the world. And I need to know exactly how the things around me look. By doing that, I acknowledge them, because my body already knows how they look. We know everything that's around us. Nothing escapes us. But we need to bring that higher up. And we do that by thinking them through. And that is a huge resistance in the beginning, because we are not used to noticing. But It's a cognitive function of action that we can learn. It's learnable. It's definitely learnable. All these things are learnable. And that's slowing it down, but it also makes me see what's happening inside my head. That's very interesting. It sounds weird. How could anything like looking at your surroundings or thinking about the surroundings make you see your thoughts? Well, those two spatial areas are not separated. That's an illusion coming from classical physics. They are one and the same. So by training this awareness, and I have to point, this is training. This is never going to end, but it becomes better and better. And by then, you start noticing your thinking, which is very good, because then you can affect it. If you don't even notice your thinking, you can't affect it. It's automatic. It's beyond your control. And that's giving up a bit. And then the fifth one, that's the best one, that's the newcomer. Slow physical movement. This will slow down definitely this very chaotic jumble, because you cannot, well, it's impossible for the different cognitive factions to fire themselves. Doesn't matter what sort of stimuli it's around you or comes internally. I noticed that too. A lot of the stimuli is self-produced from my own mental sphere. Ideas about, did I forget that? Oh no, I have to pay the rent. Oh no, something like that. And that starts a thinking process. By slowing down both the mental and the physical, because it goes hand in hand. Neuron 1 together with T1. Neuron 2 together with T2. Muscle and neuron. They actually even share a common origin. Thereby, by muscularly slowing down, you also slow down the neurons. And I felt this very, very keenly. What we get is feedback. The system can start to read itself. And what I noticed is, all of a sudden I noticed this is a strain here. I notice I should put more attention to my feet. That's a recent discovery. I also notice I go up in balance, which is very rare these days. People even go up in balance. And that happens automatically. There is an adjustment, and I would say I have felt a heightening of proprioception. I feel my body better. I feel when I'm being too warm, I feel when I'm being too cold. Feel when I'm being tired, also feel like excitement sometimes. The sensibility that we lost, and we talked about that earlier, I won't mention that again, but the elevation of consciousness to the reflective consciousness up here, it means saying goodbye to the world. And by doing that, we say goodbye to our thinking process. Greeks, none of them practice control of thinking. When it comes to the Chinese, Confucius, Mo-tzu, Lao-tzu, all of them advise practicing thinking control. None of them did not. All of them. There's no exception. So I put it like this, little diagram here, what we can do from the outside too. It doesn't matter to the bodily system if we do it from the inside or the outside. So let's do both, make it more effective. You can try ordering the head as I showed here, but you can also do it outside. Order your things. Put them in the same order every single day. That will teach the system that there is an order, because the cognitive functions don't know that. Our society is a complete mess. You are bound to be that as well, if you haven't practiced any specific training for an extensive, long period. That is sequencing. The cognitive functions need to be fired in a specific sequence for your actions to be successful. That's incredibly important. But you need to learn sequencing in itself, without objects as well. And this goes for the training of liturgy and such stuff I mentioned earlier, something that was abandoned, horribly enough, by the Second Vatican Concilium between 1962 and 65. In 3 years, they disbanded knowledge that had been accumulated in half a millennia or even more, even longer. They didn't know what had been accomplished. They had accepted the representational model, and they thought this, the advisor, they were called the fathers of the council, and their secretaries, they thought themselves to be bigger than the whole church. They thought they were wiser. Actually, somebody said they replaced God himself. They made themselves gods. And doing that in 3 years is nothing short of horrible, horrible ignorance. What they destroyed goes beyond belief. 1,000 years of sequencing, ordering, and caring. That's an important thing. Because when we don't care about things, a sloppy surrounding is a sloppy inside. It goes exactly hand in hand. And what is the most prominent feature of an abbey, monastery? This doesn't have to be only clerical things, but it's a good example. It's order, it's cleanliness. There's no things buzzing about. It's not furniture filled with literature or chewing gums and I don't know what could be. It's the neatness and it's the care about it. And that goes for the internal as well. So do it outside and it will affect the inside. Do the inside, that will affect the outside. Here's the Klein bottle once more, but in the perspective of David Bader. So this is what I've been doing. Not so much this, but I'm attempting to. And this is what we've been doing for a very long time, until it was disbanded. Well, not only the Vatican Concilium, we modern people did it as well. But it's odd though. Why did they take impression from a secularized world and said, we need to do this, whatever it's called in Italian,
Aggiornamento.
Aggiornamento. Grazie mille. We have to do this aggiornamento. And they did it inspired by the surrounded secularized world. And also in contrast to the Reformation. We need to do our own second Reformation, something like that. And I don't think it's a human ignorance. And it caused the death of a lot of monks and nuns, sickness in the abbeys, sickness in the cloisters, the convents. It was a horrible act of meanness. There's nothing short of it. And it was a reduction of knowledge. This happened before, and that happened afterwards as well. China, we have the Cultural Revolution, so forth. But it's our knowledge that's defunct. It was an act of meanness, but it was caused by lack of knowledge. Most meanness is caused by a lack of knowledge. Now we got the knowledge, now we can repair, and it's not too late at all. This could be repaired and it can also be improved. All this is left. There are still convents that do the Latin order. I visited such places. It never disappeared, and they kept the apostolic concession. It means it's correct still, which is incredibly important. You need to do bodily movement in the correct way that acknowledge knowledge that has been stored, so to speak, in the movement. This is Pfeiffer once more. Actually, Pfeiffer said once, it's incredible, all the knowledge of humanity is sort of stored in one person, in his or her movement. And when it comes to liturgy, that's the knowledge in the actual movement, being copied through generation, and it's only the movement, according to neurology, that can contain information. This is the only way we can have a correct reading of scriptures, for instance, or manuscripts, or whatever you have. And that is also one of the reasons my former pastime, which was oil painting, is very hard to understand nowadays because we don't have the movement they had. That movement contains gazillions bits of information. After the last disciple of Rubens died, there was a cut. And you can see that clearly in the paintings afterwards. They don't look the same, even for an untrained eye. And then they tried to do the same thing. And we actually did, we did get a new Renaissance, but it wasn't the same. It lacked the depth, it lacked the detail, because the knowledge was lost. It's a copy. And this is what Monet and Manet and these chaps with the Impressionists, they discovered that. Because they were trained in this copying art. And they felt it doesn't have a heart. It didn't. They were absolutely correct. So they tried to bring the heart back by adding too much color. It's nice though, but nothing beats the pure Renaissance. So this is what I've been doing as my suggestion. Of course, other things can be added and rearrangements can be done. But it's been working so far. And all sort of feedback are welcome. I round up. It's going to be a very short lecture. We're going to be on our way. I say thank you very much. And have a wholesome and recuperating evening. Take it easy out there. There was a lot today here, so just relax now. You can sigh out. It's finished for today. Bye bye.
Thank you.